Hi, it's Kaala, and I'm back with another science experiment. I know Halloween passed, but I wanted to keep the spooky season going by making witch's brew. Let me give you a quick background on the experiment while I set things up. More popularly known as elephant's toothpaste, this is a really fun experiment that shows a chemical reaction using hydrogen peroxide. Elephant's toothpaste, or in this case, witch's brew, got its name because the chemical reaction creates a large, foamy mess that looks like toothpaste coming out of a tube. It can get so big that the joke is that only an elephant can use toothpaste this big. Side note, even though this experiment has toothpaste or witch's brew in the name, this solution is not safe to ingest. This is a classic at-home experiment, but it has gained even more popularity in recent years. Camille Schreier, who was crowned Miss America in 2020, did this experiment as her talent for the Miss America competition. If you haven't seen this video of her performing her talent, I would definitely recommend checking it out. I'm a big fan of Camille Schreier because she was and is a scientist. She is a pharmacy student that is doing wonderful work to advocate for drug safety and abuse prevention. Plus, I thought it was an added bonus to see a scientist as Miss America during the height of the pandemic because it provided an accessible public figure that could potentially help people to navigate scientific discovery happening in real time. So let's start by talking about the ingredients that go into this experiment. While I was discussing the background just now, I already started measuring a half cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide. I realized I didn't have a funnel, so I found a flexible cup that could help me to pour the hydrogen peroxide into the bottle. I also added a couple of pumps of dish soap to each bottle, but something I didn't realize at the time was that the soap pump was clogged and I didn't add enough to the first bottle. So when you see me add a little bit more, it's because of this. So next I'll be measuring 6% hydrogen peroxide because I wanted to test the difference in the reaction when using different concentrations of hydrogen peroxide. Now let's get into the science behind this experiment. The ingredients that cause the chemical reaction are hydrogen peroxide and yeast. Yeast contains an enzyme called catalase that breaks down hydrogen peroxide by removing an oxygen atom. This reaction produces water and oxygen gas. The oxygen gas produces bubbles, which would usually escape from the liquid and pop quickly, but the dish soap provides extra surface tension, which allows the bubbles to get trapped and create a bunch of foam. Another cool thing about this experiment is that foam will be created regardless of the container that you make it in. But if you have a container with a small opening, like a bottle, the reaction will push itself out of the bottle really quickly, making it look like a tube of toothpaste. Another thing I noticed while doing this experiment is that the resulting solution was warm to the touch. This means that the experiment created an exothermic reaction, or a reaction that produces heat. So, in addition to creating oxygen and water, it also created heat. A cool fact about the enzyme catalase is that it can also be found in other things besides yeast, such as potatoes, dogs, and even our own bodies. We naturally produce low amounts of catalase as a result of our cells doing work to keep us alive. That's why we see 3% hydrogen peroxide bubble when we put it on a cut or scrape. Pretty cool, right? I'm also adding food coloring because, well, I don't know, it's just more fun that way, and it will help us to differentiate between the two different concentrations of hydrogen peroxide. I thought that green and purple seemed to fit the witch theme, so that's what I decided to use. So we have green for 3% hydrogen peroxide and purple for 6% hydrogen peroxide. Also, just a side note, for this experiment I'm wearing gloves and a lab coat because although 3% hydrogen peroxide is commercially available at drugstores and it can be handled with bare hands, 6% hydrogen peroxide is twice as strong and it's not safe to handle without protection. Please wear personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, if you're going to use anything stronger than 3% hydrogen peroxide. I'll also include more safety notes at the end of this video. In a measuring cup, I measured a little more than half a cup of warm water. I preheated this water in a kettle before I started recording. It's important to use warm water, not hot or cold, as warm water provides an optimal temperature for the yeast to reproduce and create the reaction. Cold water will cause no reaction, and hot water may kill the yeast, which will also cause no reaction. Okay. I added 2 packets of the rapid-acting yeast to the measuring cup. The recipe called for 1 tablespoon of yeast per reaction, which turned out to be a little less than what I got in each packet, so I just decided to use up the whole package. I mixed the water and yeast together for about 30 seconds to activate the yeast. Then, when I was ready, I poured the yeast and warm water mixture into each of the bottles containing hydrogen peroxide and dish soap. Whoa, the 6% hydrogen peroxide definitely had a more rapid reaction than the 3% hydrogen peroxide bottle. Wasn't that cool? It kind of reminds me of when a witch's cauldron bubbles over, which is why I wanted to call this experiment Witch's Brew. So just some quick safety notes if you're going to try this at home. Please make sure to wear PPE like gloves, eye goggles, and an apron or a coat to protect your skin and clothes. And if you're a child, please have an adult supervise you as you do the experiment, just in case. As you can see, Witch's Brew has the potential to overflow from the bottle, so I would recommend setting down a dish to catch any excess liquid, or do the experiment outside where it can't damage anything valuable. Once you're done with the experiment, the foamy solution is safe to be poured down the sink. And please let me know if you end up doing this experiment by either commenting below or tagging me on social media. I would love to see you trying this out. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this experiment with me. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the alert to stay up to date on my latest videos about science, theater, music, and whatever else I'm doing because I do too much. See you next time. Bye.